This is the story behind the murder of Michael Tui, who was chased by a gang of drug dealers and beaten to death in an internet cafe in Liverpool. Liverpool Crown Court heard how Michael Tui begged for his life as his killers told him, quote, "I'll show you who the gangster is." Mr. Tui was chased by a gang of drug dealers and beaten to death in an internet cafe on London Road. Three brothers, their friend and a 14-year-old boy were jailed for life for the brutal murder of 18-year-old Tui on April 16th last year.
So during the investigation, and obviously through the information that we were able to put before the court, it became clear that in the location of London Road there had been some sort of dispute, minor dispute, that we believe Michael had found himself on the peripheries of. And this was in relation to the Williams brothers who were convicted of Michael's murder. And we were able to establish that they'd been involved in drug dealing in that location and had essentially threatened Michael previously, directly and or through third parties. We think that Michael had arrived in the vicinity of London Road that day, and it was purely opportunistic really that the Williams brothers was notified of his attendance in that location. And we believe that was sort of the motivation really, and the opportunity for the attack on Michael.
Leading the attack was Kieran Williams, described as either the head or near the top of an Everton-based organised crime group. The OCG was involved in a turf war with another gang, although the full facts of the rivalry are not clear.
Well, Kieran Williams had a history of violence, and he was known for drug dealing throughout the London Road area. I believe that Kieran was sort of the main instigator in relation to the violence against Michael, and principal evidence in the case suggested that he was the main offender.
Liverpool Crown Court heard how Mr. Tui, who was due to become a father for the first time, had taken a bus to London Road. He arrived at around 5:30 p.m, where he spotted some friends and stopped for a chat. What he did not realise was that he was being watched by the 14-year-old boy, who could not be named due to his age. The boy knew Kieran was on the lookout for Mr. Tui and, quote, called in the sighting to Kieran's brother, 25-year-old Michael Williams. In a flurry of calls, Michael in turn told the third brother, Anthony Williams, who then called Kieran Williams. Those calls set in motion a gang attack that ended in murder. Within minutes, Kieran Williams had arrived on scene in a white Golf estate and chased Mr. Tui. He tried to cycle away before throwing his bike to the ground and running into the Mobiles Junction internet cafe. However, Williams was in hot pursuit. Meanwhile, Anthony Williams and his friend, 32-year-old Stephen McKinney, arrived on pedal bikes while Michael Williams also pulled up in a blue Ford Teneo. The court heard Mr. Tui ran to the back of the shop and the four adult men followed. A video released by Merseyside Police shows a digital 3D reconstruction of the crime scene. The scene inside the Mobiles Junction internet cafe on the evening of April 16th last year was described as harrowing. Mr. Tui suffered horrific injuries in the assault. A pathologist found multiple bruises to the head and neck caused by multiple blows, some with patterning consistent of footwear. The medical cause of death was blunt force trauma. It was stated up to 11 different people had been inside the small shop on London Road when the pack of killers cornered terrified Michael and kicked him to death. A detective explained failing to identify every individual could allow the killers to pin everything on the mystery man, so investigators had a formidable but vital task.
My name is John Stewart. I'm the Forensic Operations Manager for Merseyside Police, and what we have here today is a 3D representation of the internet cafe on London Road, where tragically Michael Tui was brutally lost his life. What we have here is, as I say, a 3D representation. What we do is our forensic reconstruction unit go to the crime scene and do a number of 360 scans, which are knitted all together, which allows the jury to take a virtual walk through the crime scene. Or equally what it does is it enables to pinpoint key pieces of evidence that were crucial in this case, because obviously with it being public access, there were a number of areas that we needed to negate the fact that the fingerprints had been left there in a legitimate way. And what we were able to do here is, by highlighting the position of the fingerprints in the area where the incident took place, we could eliminate others that were at the scene on that day and pinpoint it down to the people who were truly responsible for the brutal murder of Michael.
This was a very savage assault, and it must have been terrible for Michael in his last moments.
It must have been, yes, and that's why it's vitally important that we deal with Michael and treat him with all the dignity and respect that he needed, because obviously once the incident took place, it was then down to us as crime scene investigators and Merseyside Police in general to look after him, look after his family through our family liaison officers, and make sure that we did everything and left every stone unturned to make sure that we were able to get the evidence required to serve justice for Michael and his family.
The 5 killers were each sentenced to life in prison at Liverpool Crown Court. Kieran Williams of no fixed abode was sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years in prison. Anthony Williams of Hillbrook Drive, Walton was sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years in prison. Michael Williams of Carlake Grove, Walton was sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years in prison. Stephen McKerney of no fixed abode was sentenced to life with a minimum of 18 years in prison. The 14-year-old boy was sentenced to life in detention with a minimum term of 8 years in prison.
My thoughts go out to Michael's family, the extended family, and obviously his parents. They had to sit through and go through the ordeal of a trial where the details of the assault on Michael were heard, the details of his injuries were discussed at length during the trial. I can only thank them really for their behaviour, which was exemplary and commented on by the judge.